I was in the Army. I was in the Army. I was drafted in 1968, and back before they had a lottery, as long as you went to school, which I stayed in as long as I could stand it, and then you got a deferment, and as soon as I got out, they drafted me in 1968 and for the Army, and that was for 2 years, and they put me in the infantry, and although I'd grown up in the Boy Scouts and loved being outdoors and the camping, a lot of stuff that, and you know, shooting out on the farm and stuff like that, I liked that kind of stuff, but there was a war going on that I knew the infantry wouldn't be the best thing to be in, so I kept volunteering for different schools to try to hopefully get a better job than the infantry, and went to officers candidate school at Fort Benning, Georgia, and they said, well, every class they pick a few people to do military police or something not quite as dangerous. I said, oh well, it's worth a chance, and delayed going over there anyway, and I ended up being a infantry second lieutenant, and went over to Vietnam about 6 months later in late 1969.
Where are you from originally?
Northeastern North Carolina, Rich Square, little bitty place.
My best friend's from Seaport.
Oh wow, that's in Northampton County.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
I've spent plenty of time in that region.
yeah. It's really falling apart, man. They like a lot of little towns. Rich Squares, a lot of the buildings are falling down. It's sad.
Well, what was it like back in 68, 69 area?
68 and 9, well, I'd been in school for years and been away from Rich Square, but I was born during the Second World War and always liked military stuff. That's my display down there. I man that, and so I dress up sometimes in crazy military-looking hats. And the military, especially in a small town, was well regarded. And although I knew of the protest against the war, and I didn't really want to be part of it no more than anybody else, seeing how it was a lost cause, and everybody seemed to know it except the ones running it. But there's no second thought about going. You get the letter, you know, greetings, come help your country. And so I had no second thoughts, and I was supported all the way. I never spit on or any of that stuff, and proud to do my part, although not happy to do my part. But it's a nice little small town back in the 50s and 60s when I grew up there. Farming community, about 1,000 population, and I'd always collected military stuff, and I would ask my daddy to go when I'd hear of especially Korean War. I was old enough. Korean War veterans coming home knowing they won't wear the uniform anymore. Daddy, go get that for my collection. And so I ended up with a good collection of that kind of stuff, and it just, like my display down here, I've got a lot of uniforms and stuff that belonged and were worn by people who put their lives in danger for my country. And I love this country. It's got a lot of problems and faults, but somebody who will put their lives on the line when called, although everybody in Vietnam knew that was a lost cause from almost day one, but hey, it's the way it works. When your country calls, you're supposed to go. So no regrets.
What did you do when you were over in Vietnam? I guess is easier to say that.
I got over there as an infantry lieutenant, and like most of those, was assigned a rifle, what the Army calls a rifle platoon. It's supposed to be about 50 men, as a rifle platoon leader with the 1st Infantry Division, about 30 miles above Saigon. So a pretty decent area if you had to pick an area, as far as not being too mountainous, not being too thick a jungle, not being too wet like the Delta below us. Mostly Viet Cong rather than big NVA groups. And when I was there late in the war, the Viet Cong even were seeing that the protest was going to end the war and win the war for them back over here, which we heard about those protests, but it didn't really get under our skin because, hey, we knew seemed to know more than the politicians. But it didn't bug us because, hey, we were sent there for a year for our country, and they were the ones that it was going to be on if it was a screwed up mess. And we did a good job. Most of the guys were draftees like me, and so we'd go out, I'd lead the platoon, and most of the time we worked by ourselves, which was nice, because you didn't have colonels and captains and majors flying overhead watching you and telling you things like stand up and charge, you know, but it wasn't that kind of war by the time I was there, because, and we didn't go out and hide. A lot of guys were going out and hiding. Believe it or not, in a jungle, you can go out and rather than set up by a trail where you're going to have activity coming by and ambush them and take a chance on, you know, getting some of your guys killed or hurt. They would go out and get more in the deep woods, and that thought never crossed my mind, although I would have never had my guys charge across. You'd see them in the wood line across the 100-yard opening about every day. And rather than go charging after them and maybe getting a couple of my guys killed, let them go. So we set up a lot of ambushes, and my platoon was never over about 25 men due to one thing after another, shortages in Vietnam. And generally we go out and set up an ambush by a trail, and felt like we were way out in the deep jungle, but probably only 5 miles from the fire support base, and wait for the enemy to come by and set up claymore. You'll see claymores in my display. That was a weapon that blew 700 steel balls out, and every man carried about 3 of them. We'd set them up in a nice fanning area to cover the trail, and when we'd heard the noise of them coming by, we'd press that little clacker that shot the juice down the wire to the claymore, and it was a devastating weapon. And we killed 25 and 30 in less than a minute some days with those things. And we would not go out. Most of them didn't survive that weapon. We throw grenades and no bayonets. We weren't issued bayonets, no bayonet charges, none of that crap. We call in the helicopters, and like the other night, there's this thing, I've got newspaper articles I've cut out about Afghanistan. 4 Marines getting killed, waiting for support they were promised, and it didn't come till an hour or 2 later. That makes my blood boil. We got, and I appreciate this, we got assistance damn quick. Whenever we made contact, rather than us having to get up and charge across, and you know, with a bayonet or something like that, we could pop smoke, carried plenty of smoke grenades. We could pop smoke, and the helicopter would be there quick. Seemed like about 5 or 10 minutes, and shoot up the area. Artillery we didn't like as well because it was not as accurate in the jungle, and the helicopter it was pretty safe. He wouldn't shoot right on top of the smoke. And rather than you having to go chase after them, they'd blow away anybody that was kind of straggling along. And usually the Viet Cong we were mostly up against in my area, smaller groups. Once you caught them by surprise, the ones that survived those first few minutes of claymores and stuff like that would, we picked up dropped AK-47s. They would sometimes drop their rifles and haul butt. And we didn't want to chase them too far. My company commander was killed about 2 weeks after I got there, a great man, but that was his second tour. Him and the colonel seemed to really be gung-ho over the whole deal, you know, just we'd hear about them landing their observation chopper sometime when they see a VC on the trail and get out and chasing him. Now my company commander got killed about 2 weeks after I got there doing that same thing. They had a little action early in the morning, and they thought they wounded several Viet Cong, and they saw them drug away. And I talked to the colonel a few years ago, found him, located him in Missouri, I think, and he was still. I asked him, did he remember Captain Kelly? He said, I think about him every day. I wish I hadn't have let him go chasing after those people. You weren't supposed to do that. And we'd always heard that's the way they like to do, but we didn't do it because it was too dangerous. And he went chasing after him, run up on a machine gun, and was killed. So you were careful over that kind of stuff by the time I was there. And thank goodness our unit wasn't charging up hills like the Marines, the gung-ho Marines tended to like to do, and losing a lot of guys taking a hill, and then the enemy withdraw and say, okay, you got the hill. So some of that stuff is just, thank goodness we didn't have to do that way, but we were proud of the way we did, what we did, and we didn't cut any ears off or torture anybody or throw anybody out of helicopters trying to question them. I've held Viet Cong while they're dying, and usually they died quick after that Claymore, but would not have thought of harassing somebody in that. Once you're safe, he's a human being then. So everybody in my platoon feels good. I never saw any massacres or anything like that. We were around pretty friendly villages, and I can sort of sympathize with Lieutenant Calley. William Calley was in the Murrical Division up north, and after Tet, they had been getting sniper fire out of Pinkville, I think is what they called the village. And finally they were sent through the village and said, go through there and don't let nothing, I know how they word this stuff. They wouldn't tell you, hey, kill everybody, which nobody ordered me to do that. Don't let, sweep through there and don't let nothing get behind you. Well, that means kill everybody. And the colonel was flying overhead. And the company commander, guess what his name was? Mad Dog Medina. Well, he was he was a mad dog. And poor William Calley, he didn't know what else to do. And they swept through there and murdered, lined up kids and women and children. And the American public went out, the draft boards quit in anger. And I've got records down there, the battle hymn of Lieutenant Calley. And the poor boy just didn't know what to do. And one helicopter, Hugh Thompson, landed his chopper in between them and said, stop, as a brave man. He had his door gunners put the M60s on the Americans and say, stop, this is murder, stop. And he ended up getting it stopped. And the Army had trouble dealing with it for many years. He was made fun of and one thing after another, but finally got a medal years later. But my conscience is clear. Whereas those guys in that Murrical, that company of the Murrical, or Calley's platoon in the Murrical division, I guarantee you their suicide rate is real high. I've seen a documentary on it about 15 years ago, and it's already real high. I have not had one nightmare and don't regret killing the one that I orchestrated having killed. It was done. It made my men safer. And I'm happy that most of my guys got to come home to their parents and wives and loved ones. And I'm not sorry for any of it. It's a sad thing to take a life, but I'm not sorry for any of it. Have not had one nightmare. And proud to have been there with the guys. Even over there, if you could get a rear job, we called them nasty names, rimps. It stood for something very offensive, because we didn't like them guys. We kind of wanted to be one of them, because you could get back in the rear and you'd want to stay there in Vietnam forever. Pretty girls. Lots of free beer, lots, free cigarettes. Could have a ball. But we'd get back to a rear area, maybe once every couple of months. And we loved it, and we didn't want to go back out. But those guys were having a ball over there, so if we could have got out of the infantry and something else, but now that it's over, I'm proud. I wear this a lot. This little combat infantryman's badge, and most people that have been in the Army or familiar with it, it's something I'm proud of. It means I was in the infantry and I was in combat. And first time I took my boys out in Vietnam, they shot an RPG at us and probably 10 yards from us, it exploded, and I thought it was an accidental blow up of one of our claymores. I didn't realize that people were really shooting at you then. And a few days later, I said, hey, they're trying to kill us. And, I'm proud of having been over there with that group of guys. I stay in touch with a lot of them still. I find old roster back 10 or 15 years ago that I tucked away in my grandmother's desk, and it had the name and social security numbers of everybody in the company right as we were disbanding in 1970. The 1st Infantry Division was being brought home, and we were being transferred to other divisions. And I've located a lot of my guys in my platoon, and we love one another. We're family. Right now, we would go to be with them if they needed help, and just wouldn't take nothing for it. It sounds weird. I wouldn't take nothing for the experience, but I wouldn't take nothing for the experience.
What was it like when you came home?
Oh, fine. Other than nobody spit on me. I came across country wearing my short sleeve khakis because you could fly and travel by bus half price. So I came in on the West Coast and come across to sightsee a little bit with a friend to Nevada, I think, and then took some trains and buses, different combinations, not worrying about getting home. I was just happy to be back in the United States. And I remember in Wyoming or Montana, somewhere like that, I'd go into bars and at a stopover, and people would, hey, son, and I was wearing my uniform. You could tell I, was a soldier, and they would know I was coming where I was coming back from. Just lots of them wanted, let me go home and get you a coat. I'll go get you a coat and I'll give it to you. I don't want you to be cold. I mean, just felt like I was home. Got home, the old judge there, a friend took me to see him, said, Daddy, Michael Cook's been over in Vietnam in the war, and he stood up. He was about 80, 85 years old. He stood up and come over there to me and said, thank you, son, thank you. Like I'd done something for his country, which I had.
What? You came from a very strong family, I know, and you said you had the support there. What is it like, though, to tell your family, I'm going to Vietnam? What was that like? That you actually had to tell them that's where you were headed?
Oh, they weren't real happy. My mother was kind of a worrier, kind of, that's putting it mildly. She kept a map and listened to all the radio broadcasts. Tay Nan has been hit with rockets. I mean, when we were back in Tay Nan on one of them big base camps, we felt real safe, But yeah, they got rockets every once in a while, but she would wonder if I got killed, and they were always, I didn't have time to write that much. I was interested in taking care of my platoon, and they would get out to the Red Cross, and the battalion commander and the higher-ups would get on me. How about writing your mother and dad and tell them you're still living, stuff like that. And but yeah, they were not happy, but they didn't discourage me. Didn't ever say, hey, take off and go to Canada. They were proud of me. I've got in my display in there, I've got a 1968 leaflet where Dr. Martin Luther King was going to be at a peace rally. And my daddy had written notations on it, so I know it was his. I found it in his stuff after he died. And before I was even drafted, it was pretty well popular opinion in the United States that this was a waste, this war was a waste, a lost cause, couldn't be won, which is all true, except for the one fact that the way our country's set up, the leaders make those decisions, and if you don't follow them, I used to go into schools sometime, we're talking about what we did in Vietnam, and I'd say, hey, rhetorically, what in the world would happen if we gave a war and nobody showed up? Well, it'd be kind of nice in a way, but hey, the way it works with the dangerous world we live in, our country has got to be protected because there are people who would like us to be speaking German or Japanese or something else, and that could come again. So, but when I saw that, especially, I said, "Hey, how bad could that be?" They were saying, "Hey, the United States is against this my boy going over there." Not like World War II, where we were just a matter of survival. Korea wasn't, but I don't know how much of that. I don't think they had many protests during the Korean War. That was kind of a same situation, limited warfare. Well, we can't really do enough to win it, which we didn't. But it must have been a bad feeling for them with the protests and everything going on. And like I say, we went into Cambodia in 1970. The sanctuary kind of offensive, I think they called it. The Army could come up with good names for things. But we went in, and Kent State riots happened at that time. I remember us hearing about that. And of course we said, hey, some of them got shot, yeah. But it didn't upset us, because we, deep down inside, we knew that the people back in America really were more on the money as far as what kind of a screwed up mess and waste it was. But that didn't affect us. We had 1 year over there. That was our war. The war was going to last 1 year. And the Army was looking out for us pretty good. Free Tootsie Rolls, free drinks, free Pepsis, free beer, free cigarettes. Make it easy to find the prostitutes. Hey, they were sweet girls. Young people flying around together in helicopters. They'd haul us out in the field on helicopters, our legs dangling out over the side, no seat belts or nothing like that. We were having a pretty good time, most of the time sightseeing. So but yeah, the parents, my daddy wasn't aware like my mother, but she marked the maps every night when they had a rocket fall somewhere. And they sent home, they kind of put out annuals. The 1st Division put out a big kind of yearbook every couple of years, and they sent one home. And my daddy must have sat there and read the whole thing, because he found where they had a half page on my platoon, that big ambush where we killed about 25 in just a few minutes. And he wrote a letter. He said, "Was that you and that I saw reading about that Mike platoon?" And I said, "Yep, that was it." So he was proud of me.